And welcome into another episode of Tiger Territory, part of the PAL Territory Network, a Detroit Tigers podcast. I'm Kieran Steckley. With me, as always, is a man whose sunny disposition shines through even during a rain delay. He is Cody Stavenhagen. How you doing?
Doing good, Kieran. I don't know if I'm known for a sunny disposition, but I think my disposition's better than a lot of people around here lately. It's been quite a week. 0 and
Yeah,
6. 0 and 6 homestand.
unbelievable.
I would have believed 2 and 4. I would have believed 1 and 5. I don't think I saw 0 and 6 coming. That's hard to do.
It's hard to do, and what I'll say is that it's hard to do in some of the specific fashions that we saw. And some of this we already covered earlier in the week, but it does bear repeating because there is some repetitive nature to this. Just poor starting pitching. We saw that Friday where it's like that's an L right away. Like you just can't come back from that really.
Yeah.
Uh, and then Saturday, so you crumple it up and you throw it away on Friday. And then Saturday, you have like for the second time in this week, you have like your like hero moment with
Yeah.
the Spencer Torkelson home run. And just like, we joke about Torque being California cool and through all the ups and downs in his career, we don't get moments like that where we see like real emotion from Spencer Torkelson. And we got that. And like watching it, listening on the radio, being at the game, no matter what, you felt that. And then, Finnegan gives up a home run. You're like, all right. Yeah. And then to repeat it again, even though the first time wasn't a save situation, you have Will Vest not come up big in the moment that it mattered most. And then today, like, I'm wearing a moonshine hat for those that are watching on YouTube, because that's kind of what I felt. That's what I
You
felt
got
like
some
doing.
moonshine on hand?
That's what I felt like going through, is like, going to one of those samples and just taking like 8 of them real quick, and have some bartender make fun of me like it's Coyote Ugly or whatever. So like that's what I was in the mood for. Now, since then, I've mellowed a little bit just because, Royce Lewis was the guy who was the greatest, contributor to the Tigers today. So you still have the 1-game lead. That helps a lot. So, and just a little bit of time has come. I had accepted the loss for the past couple hours. All that to say, the mark was there, and you missed the mark, and now you find yourself fighting for your life, like in every facet of the season going into the week. So that's how I feel. We know how the fans feel if you go on X. Clubhouse stuff, AJ isms, like what are we seeing there? I did see the one quote where this felt purposeful from AJ, where he was like, look, we're gonna wake up tomorrow, we're gonna be in first place, and it's ugly how we got here. I'm paraphrasing. It's ugly how we got here, but we're gonna wake up tomorrow and we have an opportunity to go to somebody's house that we're competing against, and put try to win a division, basically get in the postseason. And that felt like a good managerial message. But Clubhouse stuff, in between stuff, you're there. You're still there right now. What can you kind of share with us?
I don't know, Kieran. AJ Hinch said it's not the vibe, it's not the energy, it's not the care factor, and maybe he's right. I don't empathize with AJ Hinch having to sit in front of the mics and answer these questions day after day. The Tigers do control their own destiny. You know who else controls their own destiny? The Cleveland Guardians.
Yeah.
And you're a couple days away from not being able to say you control your own destiny anymore. So that's a real problem. The clubhouse vibe, I don't know. The guys get put on camera and the mic. Where are they supposed to say? There's not Nick Castellanos on this team who's going to say anything crazy. It seems like the vibe's been fine. Post game after losses, it's been real quiet. It's been more like awkward. I'm just like, put on some music here, even if it's sad music. Do something. I don't know. It does make you wonder, like, is this whole like staying together, staying the course? I don't know. Does someone need to get mad? Does someone need to get pissed off? Because maybe the alternative is like, are these dudes ready for vacation? And I'm not saying that. I'm not questioning anyone's competitive character necessarily, but at what point do you start to wonder? Because the play has been pretty lifeless. Sunday, you're 2 for 13 with runners in scoring position, at least 5 strikeouts in those situations, just some really empty at bats. It wasn't like you were lining out to left field or something in those situations. They were guys not making adjustments, not playing the game situationally at all. And oddly enough, like at least they had opportunities Sunday. They played better than they have in some of these losses along the way. Um, and I think that kind of leads me to another point, Kieran. It's not just that they've been playing bad. You're suddenly in the stretch run, and your roster is like a mess. This is the last week of the season. You have Tanner Rainey throwing in the major leagues. You have Paul Sewald still looking like he's, just now getting up and running after coming back from injury. You still have Trey Sweeney, whose second half WRC plus is down to 1, taking a big at bat with 2 runners on in the 8th inning because you don't have another option in the organization who's a left-handed batter other than Kevin McGonigal, to come replace him. Like you have cycled in and out all these pitchers and you've used your option cycle. And now, guess who's not eligible to come up against the Guardians, who have 7 left-handed hitters and 3 switch hitters? You can't bring up Bailey Horn and you can't bring up Drew Summers, and you don't have another left-handed pitcher on the 40-man roster. And so that is concerning. Brennan Hanafy has been one of your best pitchers all season. Guess what? He's back in that option cycle. You're going to have Tanner Rainey and Paul Sewald and Chris Paddock still on the roster when it matters most. We can point to the trade deadline. We can point to decisions made the past 2 weeks, but it's been decisions big and small all season that have led the Tigers to this point, and it's really not pretty.
No, it's not pretty, and I have thought this the past couple of days. You mentioned the roster and the shape that it's in, and obviously injuries are part of that equation. So we're not dismissing it, but it's also part of the equation for everybody. But it's a thing, but we're not going to latch on to it. But seeing Vierling, seeing Reese Olson, seeing when Parker was out, seeing Parker, seeing these guys in the dugout, and when vibes are good, it's like, hey, they're still part of the team, blah, blah, blah. That's really cool. When vibes are bad, it's like, damn. It emotionally makes it feel like a bigger mountain to climb when you're thinking about all the, and now Colt Keith, who is on the 10-day IL with, and correct me if I'm wrong here, right rib inflammation.
Sounds like it's an intercostal issue for whatever that's worth.
You explain what that is for people
no, I can pull up WebMD real quick and read the same thing you guys will read. It says it's not an oblique, but it's kind of like an oblique. It's a little more in the rib cage, is my understanding. Kind of unclear how long he's going to be out. He said he felt it on the swing before he hit that double. So similar. Yeah. Well, he's struggling to rotate, hasn't been moving around that well. I guess the hope is it's mild, but seems a little unclear in terms of what to expect if he can come back for the playoffs, which we've spent the last 2 months talking about, can they win the World Series? And now it's like, are there going to be playoffs?
Exactly. And then the other source of news after Charlie Morton, just I say this a lot, is that with teams, with guys, with legends. Obviously, he's not a Tigers legend or anything like that. But the guy's been a ball player for a long time. A lot of exits are not Hollywood, and I don't know what his career is. Blah blah blah. But 41 years old. He was traded from a non-contender to a contender. He has pedigree. He's played for AJ. All these things, and to have it end like that is pretty brutal. And the Tigers, I don't even want to say to their credit, but they're not messing around. It's like we just can't keep doing this, because I'm watching that game and they're talking about he can't throw a fastball for a strike, and that's probably the worst thing you ever want to hear about a pitcher, particularly a starter, because it's I don't know, dude. At a certain point, it's just pitch and catch. You got to throw the fastball. You got to throw the fastball for a strike. Yeah. And now the Charlie Morton era, the last trade of the trade deadline, I believe, period. I think they got it in there right underneath the alarm bell. Turns out to be a dud.
Yeah, it sucks. Look, Charlie Morton's known as one of the very best human beings in the game. We here in Detroit only got to know him a little bit, but just a couple days before he got DFA'd, I talked to him for 30 minutes, and it was amazing. And enlightening and as for a story that'll only run if the Tigers make the playoffs. And now it's like, do I include this stuff from this guy who got DFA'd because it's really good, but he's gone? So that's, we'll see how that goes. But great human being and has had a great 18 years in the big leagues, man. He should be proud of that. Unfortunately, those who only saw him, in this time with the Tigers the lasting image will probably be Sunday, just getting beat around, walking off the field with his head down. I kind of thought they were going to hold on to him and DFA Chris Paddock, though, just because Morton, he's pitched out of the pin before for AJ. Like, he has this kind of outlier curveball. And I thought there was a real chance they would move him to that role, hope that he could find something and maybe be useful for you in this now hypothetical postseason. I asked AJ Hinch about that, and he's like, the command was too big of a question mark. If you weren't sure he could find the strike zone with any of his stuff at this point in the calendar, it wasn't worth it. So Morton's out, and I'm just the one saying Paddock would have been the other option. Paddock gets to stay for at least a little bit longer here. I don't know. For as much as we talked about the mess that is this roster, probably best the Tigers moved on from Charlie Morton. But it's a little strange you don't have a better option than Tanner Rainey, who was not really on my radar. He's got good stuff. He throws hard, has missed a lot of bats in his career. He also has an ERA over 5 in his major league career. In his first appearance with the Tigers, he threw 16 pitches, 11 of them were balls, to the point I'm like, maybe I'd rather just have Charlie Morton throwing some nice curveballs. Like, I don't know.
That's tough. We'll do a brief recap of the trade deadline acquisitions because everything's under a microscope when you get to this situation that the Tigers find themselves in. But first, a word from our sponsors. Your season, your shot. The NFL season is rolling. Every touchdown can bring you closer to a payout with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. From first touchdown score to anytime TD props or the thrill of live in-game betting, every snap is loaded with opportunity. New customers, this one's for you. Bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, go over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you place your first $5 bet. Plus, over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
All right, with the Charlie Morton era coming to an end, just a brief recap on the additions that the Tigers made at the trade deadline. So Charlie Morton exits with his time in Detroit, sporting a 7.09 ERA. Rafael Montero might be the best of the bunch. Probably not, but he has certainly been one of the more surprising elements. He has a 3.10 ERA, a 0.3 WAR player with the Tigers. Finnegan, we know what he's done pre-injury, but, he also threw a splitter middle of the plate and, caused that situation on Saturday to be a lot more tight. And then
I told someone it's almost like he pitched too good for you before that injury. And he kind of has nowhere to go but down,
Sure. Yeah. I mean, a lot of averages there for sure.
Yeah.
Chris Paddock, you mentioned 6.12 ERA. Cody Hoyer, I'm sorry. Got 3.1 innings out of him, and he gave up 2 runs. And then the Seawald experience it is playing out, although not like the early returns are the most promising. So that's your recap of the trade deadline when you were trying to acquire as many assets as you could to stave off, the deterioration of the pitching. And what happened was the pitching ended up deteriorating even more, and you've already gotten rid of 2 of those guys on the roster. So let's stick with pitching for a second. Then I want to get to the on base stuff.
Real quick, Kieran, I mentioned this earlier, but Scott Harris is getting killed for the trade deadline this week.
He is,
and for the most part, rightfully so. knowing this front office and how they think, I'm sure they would point to a bunch of other deals around the league that didn't work out. Suarez hasn't been good in Seattle. Helsley hasn't been good with the Mets. Duran was probably not someone they could realistically get. You can pick and choose other guys, but David Bednar has been pretty good, and um, you can do that game. What position player did you actually want outside Suarez? I'd settled on Willie Castro, and he hasn't been good for the Cubs. So that's probably what their defense would be, and in some way, that's why their strategy was what it was. Let's just go get a bunch of guys and hope some of them stick. Obviously, it didn't work. Obviously, you're paid to make those decisions and get those right. So I don't really think that's like a great defense, but it is somewhat of a defense. I would say the trade deadline mattered so much because you missed one other guys. You missed one John Brebbia and Alex Cobb, and you're supposed to be so great at developing pitching, and you haven't really hit gold on any of those under heralded guys. Your waiver claims haven't worked out. So the trade deadline was bad. But the trade deadline is a little finicky by nature, to the Tigers' point. You've made a lot of other bad decisions all year, though, and that's why you're getting killed for the deadline because of other things that went wrong too.
It's one of those things where it's like how you got there definitely plays into like why you found yourself in that situation. So that's a fair. It's all fair. Like I don't even consider that a defense of Scott Harris or the administration. It's just,
I just think it's like real. It is worth giving the context for the rest of the league. You're still paid to get it right, though.
Yeah, that's it is what it is thing, and and right now you got to go with the horses that you got. So with pitching, the Tigers did alter. I mean, we're gonna see this right away in Cleveland. They altered their pitching rotation a little bit. They're bringing Skubal in to pitch Tuesday again at Cleveland, and then it's going to be Jack Flaherty. So you talk about that's what the money's for. I know Skubal is not like paid, but like Flaherty, that's what the money's for. And then we have a TBD.
How have we not even talked about this yet, Kieran? The Tigers have 3 starting pitchers. That's all they have.
Yeah, I know.
Most importantly, it's not only you don't have a 5th starter, you don't have a 4th starter.
Yep.
And I guess they kind of got by with that last year, but this year has proven that is a very hard and very dangerous thing to do. And so now, in addition to all the other roster scenarios we've talked about, you have a TBA in what could define your season against the Cleveland Guardians. Cater Montero, we'll see how that series goes. Most likely going to be the guy to get the ball. Worth noting, they are moving up Tarek Skubal. Basically could line him up to pitch against Boston with the season on the line if need be. You could dive into a million scenarios there where let's say that's a must-win game and then you don't have him to start game 1 of the wild card. Don't love how that could go.
Not great.
So anyway, no, Cater Montero is probably going to start game 3 against the Guardians, or maybe they open for him, but he'll pitch in a big role. Cater's done some nice things, also gets in modes where he just can't command the ball and can't throw strikes, and that's usually what dictates how the outings go for him.
Yeah, and I'm glad that we're transitioning this way because it's like the how you got here piece of it is that you haven't been able, or he hasn't done it. Got to give these guys their own responsibility. Have not been able to develop from what we saw last season. So there was like Montero, I think in spring training, like AJ said, Ando was like, it was really hard to tell him that like he didn't make the team because like he was so important last year in 24 and then, had to find enough spring training and all that stuff. But everyone knew it's like, yeah, well, they're going to rely on him and, in theory should be okay. Not really. Like can't say that that's I'm brimming with confidence to throw Montero out there in a game that you would hope like you're like there's some hope. It's like that could decide the series and like have like either way it's gonna have ramifications. So that's another piece too. If we're gonna talk about front office failures or coaching staff failures, it's not like did they hold on to their prospects too long or too close at the trade deadline. It's that you didn't advance these guys this season that you knew were going to have impacts on you, in the 2025 season. So that's as big a deal, probably bigger deal actually, than what they gave up or didn't give up at the trade deadline. Let's see. Tommy Kahnle, I just want to make note of this because I'm tracking all of the prove it moments. Tommy Kahnle, for the record, he's only given up 2 runs since August 15th.
Yeah.
Just,
Tommy deserves some credit for
yeah.
getting back to being at least usable. Not all those outings have really met the eye test, but lately he's been a little better, and he deserves credit for that. Flip side, are we worried about Will Vest? Because this is one of the things I've been harping on a little bit. Entering his last outing where he gave up 4 hits, opponents were hitting his fastball to the tune of a 387 average since August 1st. We've talked about the velo being down. The velo was even a tick up in that outing, and he still got hit around. He's not missing bats, particularly with the fastball. So, talk about needing a back end reliever. If Will Vest doesn't get it together, that could be killer. And you're very lucky that Tommy Kahnle is at least, getting guys out.
Yeah. Well, also of note with the Vest conundrum, I guess we can call it right now, is that we know that AJ does not always use like his best guy for the 9th. So like
Right.
we saw Finnegan, and I don't know who he views as number 1 in his mind or whatever, but we saw Finnegan, he gives up the home run, and then Vest obviously, ends up, giving up the lead, period. So if you're not confident in Vest, that means you can't throw him out there in the 8th inning to get you to the 9th inning, right? So that's
You can. You just might not feel good about it.
well, that's what I mean. Is that like
It's about time for Rafael Montero probably to start getting more of those looks. That's a hard decision managerially. The guy,
left.
yeah, the guy who's got you here, or the guy who's been a little bit better lately. I don't know. Montero gave up a homer in Miami that cost you a game, though. So I don't know.
Again, what I say, it's like, how much can you stomach? How much can you really stomach? And that's gonna be the theme of this next week. All right, we are going to take a quick break, and then we will get to what was some parts encouraging and some parts demoralizing from Sunday, and how that could play itself out this week. So, but first, a word from our sponsors.
When you think Fair Harbor, you should think soft. You should think buttery liner. But it's not just the bathing suits or the shorts. It's also sweatshirts like the one that I'm wearing right now, Kratz. It is stupid soft.
It's ridiculous that a shirt that can, 1, keep you warm, 2, be so soft, and 3, so lightweight, like the collar, everything. You don't even feel like you actually have a hoodie on, but you do.
It is a lightweight hoodie, and it feels incredible. So you should go get one yourself. Also, for bathing suits, for shorts, for whatever clothes that you're interested in where you want to basically feel like you're not wearing them, but you are, that's what Fair Harbor can bring to the table. So head to fairharborclothing.com/foul20 and use code FOUL20 for 20% off your order. That's Fair Harbor, HARBOR, clothing.com/foul20 for 20% off your order, and make sure you use that promo code FOUL20.
All right, coming back here. I just want to, we probably haven't given this enough attention yet, Cody, but there's just so many other things that, popping through our minds. The Tigers in their past 10 games coming into Sunday were batting 190 with runners in scoring position. 190. Not great. So I was like, all right, well, you got some ducks on the pond. Let's kind of just do a quick tally. So I'm just going to name some at bats with runners in scoring position, and sometimes with multiple runners on base. We have a Kerry Carpenter flyout. We have a Riley Greene strikeout. We have a Spencer Torkelson strikeout. We have a McKinstry strikeout. We have a Javier Baez 5-4-3 double play. We have another Torque strikeout. This is in the 5th inning. Then McKinstry walks. So, okay, you got on base. But that's followed by the whole, all right, bring up our lefty killers. And Andy Ibanez strikes out. And Jahmai Jones fouls out. And then you mentioned Trey Sweeney earlier. Trey Sweeney fouls
First
out.
First pitch
Foul out. So,
you know who had the best approach of all those people and all those at bats? I think it was Javier Baez.
I mean,
Baez, by the way, who I think I'd get all credit for getting him in the lineup 3 days in a row. It didn't really work out, but he almost made a Javi play on that Acuna tag that didn't go down as an out, so it doesn't matter. But anyway, wasn't any worse than Trey Sweeney. Baez got up 3-0, swung 3-0, which I have no problem with, especially if you're Javi Baez. Honestly, the pitcher's got to come in the strike zone. Do you foul off a high fastball or missed a fastball? And then he did chase below the zone on 3-1, but it was a breaking ball that was over the plate low. He hit it hard. It was just on the ground into a double play. Like, oddly enough, I saw a lot of bad at bats with runners in scoring position today. I didn't necessarily fault Javi's approach at the plate.
Well, that's the thing. Like, this offense had no life for a lot of this week. And you have to say, with getting that many runners and getting that many runners in scoring position, that is life. You know what I mean? Like you had life, but you just, up until the 9th, when the game's basically over, you hadn't been able to play to anybody. So there's parts of that where it's like some approach aspects, some coaching points aspects was working, but when it matters most in these leverage situations that we're increasingly becoming higher attentive to when we try to classify clutch and all those things, they failed. Like, and by the way, like we talked about ride or dies earlier in the week, and a lot of the people that were high end of our little ride or die draft, Garrett Carpenter, Riley Greene, All-Star, Trezor Torkelson, 30 home runs. Greene or Torque and Carpenter obviously clutch earlier in the week. McKinstry, All-Star. Baez, as you mentioned, All-Star. And then the two lefty killers didn't really give you anything. So it's like you're these potential hero situations that you could have salvaged a series, gained another game on the magic number, and they just fell flat. And like you said, a lot of non-competitive at-bats. A lot of they looked completely unprepared for off-speed from Strider.
Yeah, Torkelson missed 3 in a row, and Torque, who actually had a pretty nice week, missed 3 sliders in a row. Jahmai Jones got 4 pitches in the heart of the plate and fouled a couple off, and then fouled out. I'm not here how to tell anyone how to hit a major league slider, but you look at some of these at bats and they were bad. Riley Greene, hey, he at least put the ball in play a few times, hit one ball hard on Sunday, but a brutal week for Riley Greene. That's a guy you got to have in a mode where he's not, extreme strikeout Riley. And AJ Hinch says, hey, when he gets going, someone's going to pay for it. And he's not wrong. We've seen it with Riley too much all season. Hey, final 6 games this series, need Riley Greene to at least be touching the baseball.
Yeah, and you mentioned like the gotta haves, like you gotta like all these guys we just mentioned, then you throw in Skubal. Obviously you gotta have Skubal no matter what. Flaherty, gotta have Flaherty, who oddly enough is a lot better against teams above 500. So if that trend continues, you hope that you put yourself in a position to win. But like all the gotta have it guys on Sunday flunked. All right. And it's a shame that we're talking about it like this when Kerry Carpenter was hero status for a brief moment earlier this week. And Spencer Torkelson was hero status for a brief moment this week. And it all got wiped away. And it doesn't matter because now you go into the last week, you got 6 games and you have a 1-game lead on your division. And that wild card is messy. So you don't want to get in there either. So things are tight. Things are tight.
It's wild. I've never seen anything like this. It would be, I think, the worst collapse in Major League history. I think in any sport I've covered, this is about as tense as anything I've experienced. It's not been a good environment. It's not been a particularly fun week at Comerica Park, as anyone listening to this surely understands. Like, wow.
Well, what do you expect? What do you expect? Not necessarily like results wise, but like when you go to Cleveland and you're in, AJ beforehand in the clubhouse and Skubal and like all that stuff, because it's, you're not going to be in friendly confines anymore. Their 2025 life is on the line more than it has been in any situation this year. Like, what do you expect to see? What do you expect to see?
I don't know. There's a part of my gut that tells me they're just done. Like, because it's felt like that. I've also watched a lot of baseball, and I think over the past calendar year of the Detroit Tigers has really taught me to ever stop expecting I know what's going to happen, because it's been some ridiculous highs and ridiculous lows. It's an interesting test of leadership for AJ Hinch, who preaches steadiness, who's not the guy to flip the spread post game and throw a tirade, and doesn't see a lot of value in that. And I generally agree with that approach. But again, in a time like this, what's going to get a rise out of a team? I don't know. If that's not authentic to who he is, I'm not saying he should necessarily go act like that, but it's an interesting, like, where's it coming from, and where's the leadership coming from outside the manager's chair? I kind of looked around the clubhouse and was like, well, we talked about how great Glaber's been, but like, does this team really have leaders? Especially amongst the position playing group. It's still a lot of really young guys just trying to hang on in the major leagues. Like, there are guys who are important to the franchise, but I don't know. Sometimes leadership can be for show. It can be eyewash, but then you look around and it's like, well, they don't have an Alex Bregman. They don't have anyone like that. They just don't.
The reality of the situation is that how this next week plays out will be individually, obviously collectively as the 2025 team, but individually will be a legacy chapter, if not legacy defining. And the thing is, dude, if you insert expletive word here, the bed this week, you don't get to play tomorrow, metaphorically. You gotta sit on that until February. It's a long time. And then how are you going to respond then? So I don't know if AJ's got to get him, win one for the Gipper speech, but I think a hey, this is a great opportunity, but also sense of urgency combination kind of seems like the play. So there's a part of me that's like, but there's also a part of me that's like, you know what? This is why you love sports. You get to watch this and see what happens, because you don't know what's going to happen. You just don't know what's going to happen. And I'll be excited to watch, and we'll see what my moonshine intake
Brutal as this has been, there's a chance to turn it into a great story all over again.
And again, everything's in front of you if you're the Tigers. That's
for a little bit longer. For a little bit longer.
Yeah, for a little bit longer. For about 48 hours, and then first pitch happens, and we'll see. Anything else, Cody, before we jet out of here?
No, that covers it. It was good to vent a little bit. We will talk more next week. We'll get Austin Jackson on here for some of his perspective. Buckle up.
It's gonna be hanging on every pitch. Postseason starts Tuesday. That's really what it amounts to. Postseason starts Tuesday. So we shall see what happens. All right, you can follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Cody Stavenhagen. I'm at Kieran_Steckley. Pod page at Tiger Territory _ TigerTerritoryShop.com to get your Tiger Territory merch. YouTube, Instagram, Apple, Spotify, wherever you are. That's where we are. We appreciate all of you as we go into the final week of the regular season. So for Cody Stavenhagen, I'm Kieran Steckley. Everybody have a great day.